tonight, you will see a live simulation of a National Security Council's Principals Committee meeting at the White House. Our scenario takes place 2 years from today, on November 19th, 2021. We have simulated a world in which one big thing has changed. In March 2020, the People's Bank of China launched a sovereign digital currency known as the digital yuan.
We're hearing reports that North Korea may be using China's digital yuan currency to evade sanctions and purchase weapons material.
Well, the digital yuan is an opportunity for the North Koreans to break free of the American hold on dollar transactions.
We have been leapfrogged by others, by digital currency, by digital Chinese currency. Why? Because frankly, our central bank has been slow, and there's an appointment coming in January of 22. The president's got to decide whether to change over who's leading the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve runs our payment system. Right. And I think we need to move that Federal Reserve into the modern era.
Would be in order to go about setting expectations appropriately in public about how we would execute Title II. So that if and when we do have to have that announcement on Friday night, ideally Friday night, that people are in a position to receive it, understand it, and say, yeah, that works.
Welcome to the Crypto Teacher. And you know I come back with that video just to make you think.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.
And guys, when we know it comes to the NWO, everything is planned out. It's always a simulation. And we have the FDIC speaking about Title II. How do they carry out these bankruptcies and liquidations? And what did we have with SVB? Yes, it was all set up. But guys, we know what happened on a Friday, and the Fed, Treasury, and FDIC came in as planned and got it resolved. Guys, this was all a test run for what we know was going to happen in the banking industry. Remember, this old model has to go out the window, but you can't scare the people. And what did the politicians say? We don't want to scare the people. We can't put out too much information. And we know the central bankers are the master magicians. They're going to set up a distraction so therefore they can put their plan into effect. That's the reason why we had the debt ceiling, and that's why Trump is back on the scene. Because while the masses are looking one way, the NWO is building and moving us over to the fourth industrial revolution, where the robots, algorithms, and drones take the economy over, pay each other with crypto, and the sheep go inside the metaverse. And the great part about this video, guys, is that you hear it out the horse's mouth. But you know the Crypto Teacher gives you the truth, nothing but the truth. Yes, the truth hurts, but it sets you free. And the Crypto Teacher tells you when it comes to the New World Order, it's all planned out. You have a wonderful day.
Our communications and improve confidence when the time comes. And with that, I'll turn it over to my colleague, Susan Baker.
Hi. As Betsy conveyed, we've done a lot about transparency in terms of resolution planning. It's all out there on the website. What we want to think about and what we're starting to work on now is how to improve transparency about our execution plans for Title II resolution. We've been working on these for 10 years now, and we should probably be starting to say more things publicly. So what do we want to think about today is what should we be transparent about now that would help improve confidence in the event that we're called to use our Title II authorities. And we've been thinking about this across many dimensions. First, we look at who we need to be transparent for. And we have a large number, a list on this slide that you can see. We've done a lot of work with policymakers and regulators around the world, it's been said, and a lot of engagement with certain parts of the firm. So the slides on the right, we've probably done more on, but what do we need to be thinking about for the stakeholders, on the general public, customers, counterparties, other people like that? We think about what message do these stakeholders need to hear, and it might not all be the same. And then we think about when we need to be transparent. And I know that there's going to be a temptation for us to say, for people to say, FDIC should just lay it all out there. Say what you're going to do every step along the way. And that pre-commitment will help improve confidence. But we also need to be mindful of the need for FDIC to have operational flexibility to adjust to the specific facts and circumstances on the ground. Next slide, please. So this slide is some topics that we're considering, the what we need to be more transparent about. And so what we would like to hear from you is which of these topics or others that might not be on here, thinking about contracting authority, which I took off the slide and now maybe I shouldn't have. What are the things that would be helpful to get out in the public domain to improve confidence now? So some of the things we've heard about obviously are, what are the key decisions that the FDIC has to make? When would you decide the framework? Is it going to be, is Title I bankruptcy going to work, or do we need to turn keys for Title II, which basically hinges on the need for liquidity through the OLF, I think. How do we decide the resolution strategy? Does the firm have enough capital to make an SPOE work, or do we need to be thinking about an MPOE? Do we need to be more transparent about how we coordinate cross-border, how it would differ if we're a home or a host? For example, we get questions about planning for the bridge as well. Who's going to run this bridge? What assets and liabilities will go into it? And how will the FDIC oversee what's happening at the bridge and maintain that for a public confidence perspective as well? We're thinking about creditors. How do you communicate with claimants, including about their claims determination? How will the losses be allocated on the Dodd-Frank hierarchy, which is different than under FDI Act and under bankruptcy? And then how will the claimants be compensated? How does securities for claims process work? We mentioned that in the 2013 thing that Betsy mentioned earlier. We're also wondering if we need to be more transparent about some of the accountability mechanisms that we have as well for the general public audience. We are required to remove culpable management. How would we go about doing that? Do we need to re-emphasize that in the Dodd-Frank hierarchy that compensation claims are subordinated to general creditors, and that prior compensation could even be clawed back if it? And then finally, there's the funding mechanism. What part of that would be most helpful to boost confidence? I do think that the OLF and using it is the big gift. It's not a gift, but the big tool that we need in Title II to help provide confidence. But what do people need to know to really get that? How important is it to explain the rules and the mechanics for the OLF? How money will get from point A to point B. How would we use targeted guarantees to allay concerns about excess cash use? There's a lot of questions here. And so, there are a lot of things we've been thinking about, and what we want to hear from you today is what you think the priorities would be in order to go about setting expectations appropriately in public about how we would execute Title II. So that if and when we do have to have that announcement on Friday night, ideally Friday night, that people are in a position to receive it, understand it, and say, yeah, that works. And we can see how this will happen. Of course, there will be doubters, but there's a lot of things going on. So with that.
I'm a bit pessimistic about your ability to communicate with the people who really need to know in terms of a crisis. And this is partly from my experience of teaching this stuff. There was a lot of interest just after the crisis. It's dwindled over time. And so people are sort of less and less interested in getting into the nitty-gritty and some of the really interesting developments. So I would think your strategy ought to be to disclose as much as possible to people who professionally need to know about it. And that would certainly include the ratings agencies and the people within the banks who are responsible for these judgments. And simply have publicly available a place where people can go if they need to know more. Because we're dealing with a society where people are getting their information in tweets. There's just no patience, I think, for going through the elaborate and careful planning that has gone on. It should be there. It should be accessible when people need to know. But I don't think you have much hope of reaching a public that doesn't have a professional need to know.
I completely agree with that. I almost think you'd scare the public if you put this out. Like, why are they telling me this? Should I be concerned about my bank? Like, my insurance company doesn't tell me what they're doing with my assets. They just assume they're going to pay my claim, right? I think you've got to think of the unintended consequences of taking a public that has more full faith and confidence in the banking system than maybe people in this room do. That we want them to have full faith and confidence in the banking system. They know the FDIC insurance is there. They know it works. They put their money in. They're going to get their money out. So there's a select crowd of people that are in the institutional side. And if they want to understand this, they're going to find a way to understand this. There's a bunch of law firms represented in this room. There's a bunch of people that charge them by the hour a lot of money to explain this all to them. And it's fine. I don't have a problem with that. And they all have huge staffs. But I would be careful about the unintended consequences of starting to blast too much of this out in the general public.
So I'd like to take a slightly different view, and maybe a middle ground in the center. First of all, I think, Susan and Betsy, what you've done and the thoughtfulness here is extraordinary, and I want to give you respect for it. I do think there's more that could be put out in the public, perhaps not just on Title II, but also on Title I, in a way that isn't scary to folks. I mean, Gary, there's a timing question, right? We're at a delicate moment now, so if it goes out tomorrow, it might have a different impact than if Susan and Betsy do their work and it goes out as we're moving out of the recession. But I'm very big on transparency. I think transparency leads to accountability. The FDIC has to have flexibility. So there are some ways that you could get out some basics, which say, we could do this, we could do that. We will be holding these folks accountable. We have these powers. We have these authorities. Without putting too much out there. I get that we live in a tweet world, but that 1994 book that the FDIC did on this, I mean, that's a Bible, right? And so folks who want to know about it. One final thing is, I think that there's an additional group of stakeholders that exist today that need to know more about resolution planning that didn't exist when we started on this journey. And that is the kind of fintech, non-bank lenders, money transmitters, digital assets, crypto exchanges, whatever we want to call them. I know you've listed domestic authorities, and I think there are states that are starting to think, should we have a resolution plan? And there's so much learning here that could be of benefit to those who are thinking about different kinds of resolution plans, and they would be very different if you could put a little bit out more in public. So I'd go for more, maybe not the whole hog.
Hey guys, good morning. That's right. Details of President Trump's arraignment Tuesday are now coming to light, and the whole thing should happen fairly quickly. Now, the former president is expected at the courthouse at 11 a.m. with the arraignment set for 2:15. It could be over as soon as 2:30 or 2:45, and the courthouse and nearby streets will be essentially locked down during that time due to strict security measures. Sources have told Fox News that this will all take place without handcuffs on the former president. Now, Trump was spotted giving the thumbs up to supporters who gathered outside Mar-a-Lago yesterday as his friends and foes say this indictment will only make him stronger. And former Attorney General Bill Barr agrees that support will help Trump but could hurt other Republicans running for the White House in 2024. Listen.
I think the impetus is really to help Trump get the nomination, focus the attention on him for 2 years, have this thing swirling around plus whatever else comes, which I think will be damaging to whoever gets the nomination.
Here we go. Just as I predicted, now we're playing with the big stuff. The N-word, that is, the nuclear word, is now being used front and center all over the world. This situation was caused by us. It's what happens when you have incompetent people running your government. All I can say to you is, right now, drop down and pray. Does Joe Biden understand that the reason NATO currently exists loaded up with cash is because President Donald J. Trump insisted that delinquent nations, of which there were many, carry their own weight and pay their fair share? If not, I insisted, we will not protect them from the evil empire. We will not do it. The money came pouring in after decades of non-payment and abuse. I haven't heard Joe say, "Thank you, President Trump, for the great job you did." Perhaps I'm just not listening. But the fact is, when I was president, I got NATO nations to pay hundreds of billions of dollars into NATO. They were all delinquent, most of them, and it was a disaster. They had no money. The United States was paying for NATO at a level that they've never paid before. Now NATO's stuffed up with cash. Thank you very much, President Trump. Thank you very much. China, Russia, and Iran, not to mention North Korea and other countries, have placed the U.S. in a very bad and dangerous position. They are dividing up the world as we sit around and let them do it. They no longer respect the United States, but they will. Go out and vote. 2024, we have to win back the White House. Thank you very much.
Going to a different economy, and we're going to be learning more about that as we go. But clearly, we're learning that things can be done from remote locations. We're learning that technology can replace people even more than we thought.
We're not going back to the same economy. We're recovering, but to a different economy, and it'll be one that is more leveraged to technology. And I worry that that is going to make it even more difficult than it was for many workers.
In Silicon Valley, and my friends who work in technology know that what we did to the manufacturing workers, we are now going to do to the retail workers, the call center workers, the fast food workers, the truck drivers, and then even bookkeepers, accountants, insurance agents, lawyers, and on through the economy. So what happened to the manufacturing workers is a very clear sign.
And so we'll import Chinese-based CBDC technology. So it's going to be CBDC in a box provided to you by the People's Bank of China.
It's Cryptoteacher and the New World Order book, plus the 3 kids books. It's time to re-educate. Also, new to cryptos, Coinbase, Bitrue, Binance. Do not forget book links and crypto links are in the description. The stock channel, guys. Don't forget to go like, subscribe, spread everywhere. You have your Kobo, your chip stocks, your banking, your gaming. While everybody's sitting at home, get home stocks, the Seaver, the biotech stocks. And while everybody's at home wishing they were still getting that free money, what are they doing? Drinking and smoking weed. Don't forget about those stocks, and you have a wonderful day. The most powerful person in the world is the storyteller. The storyteller sets the vision, values, and agenda of an entire generation to come. Steve Jobs. And guys, you know I truly believe in this. When you look at the New World Order, they're the storytellers. And that's the reason why I wrote my New World Order book. But guys, now it's time to change the current generation. And I wrote 3 kids books. You know, I love the Trinity because I understand the power that's in it. So I have 3 books. We have an opportunity to change the generation, to educate, not just me, but I want to show you that I take action on a daily basis. And I want you to take action on a daily basis. Whether it's your job, whether it's in your community, we have an opportunity right now to educate the masses. I posted this on my Twitter account. Please share, but this is a short clip of the 3 books. There's going to be a clothing line and action figures. Please get these books for your kids, nephews, cousins, friends, so therefore we can start the re-education now. Because as we see, the 4th Industrial Revolution foundation is definitely here. Robots, algorithms, drones, taking humanity out the picture. We have to re-educate. But let's get into the video.
Part 1. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save the village. Part 2. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save New York. COVID Stories 3. Part 3. King Joshua and Grandma Tam goes to China.
It's mandatory to get part 1, part 2, and part 3 of this series. It's time to re-educate Generation Z.